Here's a question for you. Do you recognize this game? If not, that totally makes sense. This is Call of Duty 2 from way back in 2005. It's pretty good, but these days if you looked at some random footage of it, it might not look terribly special to you. To us these days, this game just looks like some random old shooter. If you've played some older Call of Duty games, maybe this HUD looks familiar to you or something, but the game itself probably isn't all that recognizable. I think we kind of put this in a category of its own in our head. It's some old game that you don't recognize. It looks familiar, but you can't really tell what it is. Here's the thing though. Back then, almost 20 years ago, this is just how games looked. Nobody thought these graphics were bad. They probably even thought they were good. The people that were impressed with it have probably long since forgotten it though. And this game kind of remains as a relic. A dusty old game with a forgotten past. Here's another question for you. Do you recognize this game? This is Body Cam. It's made by just 2 people, and it claims to be, quote, the first ultra-realistic multiplayer first-person shooter game made using the latest technologies of Unreal Engine 5. If you're not familiar, they basically took some Unreal Engine maps that looked really good, and then turned on some camera filters and stuff to make things look less artificial. They did a pretty good job making the game look good, and on top of that, the gameplay itself is pretty interesting. It's not going to win Game of the Year or anything, but it serves as a very fascinating demonstration of what games these days are capable of looking like. These 2 games probably aren't as different as you might think. Both looked very good when they came out. Both have about the same good but not great reception to them. There's a massive amount of hype surrounding Body Cam and others with a similar idea, and I think it's important to point out that this happens all the time. When the SNES came out, people were very impressed at the 16-bit graphics. To them, that wasn't an art style, that was just what games looked like. An attempt at reality, if you will. Look at this picture. You can tell it's a tree. Your brain sees that, and it goes, tree. As long as the game's visuals do that, your brain is happy to sit there and point out trees and guns and robots all day long. That's why we're still happy to play games that don't look photorealistic. Sure, they may not be like real life, but the people who made it knew how to make it look visually pleasing, and your brain fills out the rest to tell you what's going on. That brings us to a key point. Visual style is more important than visual fidelity. Photorealism looks cool, but when you're actually playing the game, you don't really need to be able to see all of that. Here's some footage of Forza. You can see that the hood of this car almost perfectly reflects the view in front of you. Sure, these things are super nice and help you see the effort that's put into the game, but in a race, you can't afford to be looking at the hot air balloons in the sky miles away. What games really need to do is pull you in and make you feel immersed. Forza has these really good views, and it's a fast-paced driving game that goes through these stunning views. And these tiny details make the whole thing feel smooth, cohesive, and plausible. Body Cam has these gritty environments that pull you in, because there's nothing to distract from the environment itself. These realistic graphics are an artistic decision in themselves. There's no way that photorealism is objectively better than a more artistic kind of style, simply because each game is different and needs its own kind of style to portray that unique vision. Maybe 20 years from now, the best video game graphics will be indistinguishable from real life. That's okay though, because once they're done innovating on that front, they can only compete on what really matters, which is making the games good. I was pretty much just going to end the video here, but when I was writing the script for it, I came across Quake 2 RTX. Now this is just the shareware version. I wasn't about to spend my hard-earned money on it, and it doesn't run terribly well on my computer since my AMD GPU isn't very good for ray tracing, but I definitely thought it was interesting. Here they took a very old but still very good game, and then they brought it up to speed with modern graphics technology. Here, these low-resolution textures and chunky 3D models are turned into an art style, rather than a technical limitation, and I've got to say that it looks great. I love it when games look good, but if the game itself doesn't feel good, it doesn't matter. Here they took something already good, and then they made it look even better. And that's really the approach game makers need to focus on. Graphics can get outdated in a few years, but the other things are what people really remember your game for. Sure, it feels good to play a game that looks amazing, but if the story, gameplay, and overall visual style don't really hold up, there aren't that many reasons to play it. People like to ask, do graphics matter? And the answer is yes. But there's nothing you can do to prevent them from one day looking bad. Games get old no matter what. So what matters is to make games that can move beyond that. Thanks for watching until the end. You people are the best. See you next time.